It's Parshat Shoftim. It's the middle of the book of Deuteronomy. Moses is trying to lay out all the lessons that he thinks we need to hear because he knows he won't be crossing into the promised land with us. And he's trying to sum up the most pivotal points. This week, Parshat Shoftim is named for judges and for justice because he knows, Moses knows, and we all know, that holding society together and trying to answer the imbalances that happen when groups of people are together for a long period of time, especially when they have freedom. Here we are, after having gone through the desert for 40 years, about to enter into the promised land where we will be able to self-determine, or at least begin the process of conquering a land, which, of course, in the modern world has very complicated resonances. But once we are without our leader, what will we do? Well, this parsha begins with the commands to have shoftim and shotrim. We're going to need to have judges, and we're going to need to have enforcement for justice. Because in fact, when a community comes together and people have enough freedom to do what they choose, and that might mean try to succeed, at the expense of a neighbor, which of course the Torah understands people will try to do, which is why the central command in the Torah is to love your neighbor as yourself. It's the hardest thing to do when you have the choice not to. When we're in a society where people begin to compete just by nature of trying to make a living and then succeeding a little bit, what happens when two claims come against each other? Well, you need to bring them to court. And in that court, you'll be heard by justices. But no one wants to listen to the justice who tells you that you aren't correct or that your neighbor's claim is more valid than yours in this moment. But in fact, that's what happens in society. Competing claims will happen. Who do you turn to in your day? Especially, Moses teaches us, when I'm not there myself. Because when we had a claim, remember the story in the beginning of the book of Exodus, in Parshat Yitro, Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, sees him sitting as a justice. He's the only judge, and everyone stands all day, bringing him all of their claims. And when Yitro says, "What are you doing?" Moses says, "Well, this is what I do. I sit and I listen to claims, and I tell them what the answer is." Yitro says, and Moses seems to have learned this lesson, it's not good like that. You'll wear yourself out, and you'll wear the people out too. There needs to be something that we now call representative justice, where you have a judicial system that has appeals courts. But you start with the basic courts and you have to work your way up, fine. And then eventually, maybe, you go to the Supreme Court. And in Israel today, we see this playing out with incredible tension. But the Torah presumes the problem. We're going to have a problem. Here we are, with problems, because we're people and because we live together. How do we adjudicate those problems? You need shoftim, and the Torah says when a question arises that you haven't answered and it's too great for you to address, go to the shoftim that you have in your day. But that won't be enough. In fact, the alignment of justice and enforcement is very important. We can see again this tension happening in the state of Israel today, where there are those who are discontent with the system of justice as it is established in the state of Israel. And that's understandable, because systems always need to evolve. And in a certain sense, the Supreme Court in Israel currently does not represent, at least visually or by identity, everyone who is part of society. And that means that there needs to be some adjusting. No one's claiming that anything is perfect. But what's clear is that some people, have a hard time being told that their claim isn't the one that's going to win. It's a very, very complicated thing. What a gift it is to have systems of justice and to have them as a gift to us, as a legacy from Moshe Rabbeinu. To be told that there will come questions that you haven't addressed yet. And there will be a system in place that will help you find the answer. And there will be those who make sure that justice is the law of the land. Because without justice, we know what will happen. We know that without justice, Neighbors will not treat each other with kindness or with love, which of course is the central command of the Torah. In fact, later in Jewish history, during the time of the Mishnah, early rabbis said, "You must seek the welfare of the government, without which people will swallow each other whole." And that tells you that the Torah understands, Moshe understood, the rabbis understood, and we must remember that we require systems of justice, and those just systems need to be just. When justice is no longer representing what we understand to be necessary in the land, we need to do our best to return to those core values of hearing each other, of sitting and understanding that our claims are coming from places of truth. We should never seek to hurt each other with the systems of law that we hold in our hands. And in this third Jewish Commonwealth, our newest attempt to get it right, where no system is going to be perfect, but we all must do our best, we have to remember that Moshe told us in advance, before we would enter into the land, that it was going to be hard. He told us that there would be new questions. And he told us that we have to trust each other. We have to treat each other with justice and kindness. And we have to remember, even when we don't like it, that there are answers, that systems of justice provide answers. And even when we don't like them, those are the answers. And if you don't like it, you take it up again. That's what a democracy is. Now, Moshe wasn't suggesting democracy. I don't know that I can align Moshe's sense of God-driven society with our notion of liberal democracy. But I would suggest this. The connection between Parshat Shoftim and our world is clear. You and I won't always agree. It's what it is to be alive. It's what it is to have a voice. It's what it is to be free. We need not agree, friends, but we do need to respect each other. And when we have a hard time doing that, we need somewhere to go. And that's what we call the justice system. And when the answer is given, especially when we don't like it, we need it to be enforced. We need to remember that there's an authority that holds society together, and Moshe knew we'd need it. So in honor of our ancestors, and in honor of our descendants, let's think really hard about the beloved community we hope to build together. Let's respect all of the facets of that society and make sure that we strengthen them as we try to perfect them. We're never going to get it perfectly, but we can certainly do our best. Let's take this week to do some deep learning about that with Parshat Shoftim. Let's sing our way into a good day, friends. Here we go. La 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 Bless you, friends. See you tomorrow.